Hi, and welcome to the channel. I'm certainly glad you decided to spend 10 minutes with us today. On this episode, I thought we'd do a fantastic mountain scene out of pallet wood. I think you'll enjoy the scene we're about to do, and I hope you take the time to try it yourself, or just pull up a chair and relax and watch with us. Okay, to start out, we're just going to mark out where we want our scene to go and where the mountains are going to live in our world. It's entirely up to you. This is your world. You can have 4, 5 mountains, or if you think that's too much, shoot, just leave one of the little rascals out. Now I'm just marking out on a thin sheet of plywood here, so I know what I need to cut and can plan it all out so I don't waste too much wood. I'm adding 4 little happy mountains to mine, so they don't feel left out. And here, I'm just marking out where I want my picture to end, so I can work up to the line and chop it all off after. To make life easier, I made this little straightening sled here, just so I can straighten out the edges of the pallet wood. It's real easy to make, just a couple of pieces of wood and a few clamps I bought. Now once you've got a straight edge on one side, you can just flip that little devil over and straighten out the other side without the need for the sled. Once I'd straightened out those edges, I just went ahead and fed that wood into my thicknesser. Watch him gobble it all up. Once I'd finished feeding him, I just went ahead and neatened up the ends of the wood, make it all straight and nice. Make sure they're happy in the world they're gonna live in. It's important your wood stays happy. No one likes sad wood. Okay, now we've got our background pieces cut. It's time to roughly fit them where they're gonna live. I'm just using the speed square again to mark out and cut them to length. Oh, and would you look at that? Brings it all together. Now then, we're just going to trace out our mountain pattern from underneath the wood we just put down on top, so we know where to make our cuts. It's real easy to do, just using the speed square to line up against the markings below and just using a thick pen to draw it out on top there. Pretty much everything is going to be 45 degrees or a straight cut, so a speed square is the perfect tool to use. Now I'm just going to start cutting away at these guys. Like I said, 45 is the magic number here. Just set that saw to 45 degrees and get cutting along those lines that you've made. You see how that fits nice and snug as a bug in a rug there? And that's what you want for the rest of the cuts. Nice and easy, just keep cutting away, moving from one 45 degree cut to another. Heck, let's have a little fun here. Let's get the bandsaw out to make this cut. You can do this with a handsaw if you don't have one. This is something I recently got, and I just set it up with a 45 degree minor gauge guide just to make the cut. And there we have our rough background. We can fill in the holes, glue it all down, and paint that sucker. You're probably wondering why I'm gluing it down now and not waiting until everything's cut. Well, I just don't want everything sliding around and falling off. As everything is pretty much 45 degrees, there's not much scope to go wrong. And heck, I'm just looking forward to making those happy little mountains. Okay, I'm just gluing it all down using some wood PVA, and once it's all stuck in place, I'm just going to clamp it down, add some weight, and just leave it overnight to dry, and just get me a nice bond. I tell you, those little bits, they're so fiddly. Okay, now then, I'll tell you what. Now the glue's dried, I'm just gonna fill in some of the nail holes here. I do love the rustic look, but as I'm gonna paint the background as the night sky, I think the holes will probably distract the eye from the overall piece. I'm just gonna take some Osmo wood filler, push very firmly against the hole, and just drop that little rascal in until it's quite smooth. You can always build up your filler if it's a deep hole. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we're gonna sand it down anyway. There you go. Okay, once that's dry, just give it a light sand, and we're going to give it a little paint. Now we're going to be going for a night sky here with a slight gradient. I'm going to have all the colors run across the bottom of the screen that you need to paint along with me. While it's doing that, shoot, I'm going to get started. So we're going to start off with a light blue, and as we get higher, the paint's going to get darker and a nice gradient, like the sunset not too long ago, and there's still some light lingering behind the mountains. Okay, just using a 2-inch brush, I'm going to start at the bottom and just start painting in a happy little sky. Just a little bit at the bottom here, and now I'm going to mix directly into that same paint, a darker gray to create the gradient. As we go up, we're just going to blend together and add darker paints until we get just pure black at the top. We're not going to be too careful here. We want to keep it rustic, and we're going to sand a lot of this back to the wood again. I've just added a few white paint splashes on there just to look like distant stars. Once I sanded it back, I added some more prominent stars just using the end of a matchstick, just dipped in white paint. Next I pulled out the old orbital sander and I just started sanding back that paint just to bring back some of the wood and give it a nice rusted look. Kinda like you'd find in an old cabin in the woods. I really like that style. I then had to start cutting down some wood to use for the mountains in our world. My old friend Shara stopped by here. He was telling me a story about some jellyfish he saw on the beach.
All good, come down here, man. So I walked over and we looked down and we couldn't see it from where we were parked, but like when we looked down, we were really close. We looked down and there was just all these jellyfish, like all over the place, one every 2 or 3 feet.
I pretty much followed the same process of straightening out the wood as I did before. I really wanted a 3D look, so I chose woods of different thickness. So the thinner wood would be at the back to indicate distance, and then the thicker wood at the front so it looked closer. I just followed the pattern I'd laid out on my backing board. I just cut the wood at 45-degree angles where the mountain peaks would meet, and then straight cut at the bottom where it'd end. Remember, this is our world, and we can pretty much do what we want in our world. If you want purple mountains, then heck, you go ahead and make purple mountains. I just followed the same process over and over, 45 degrees on top, straight on the bottom, following the pattern we've already made. Just keep going over and over until you get the world that you want. And would you look at that? A perfect fit. Now I like to mix it up a little bit with different widths of wood, just to make it more interesting on the eye so it's not so repetitive. But again, it's your world and you can do whatever you want that'll bring you enjoyment. Okay, so that's the basic layout of our mountain range. You can see I've left the bottom. That's going to get cut off when we're finished. And just to add to the 3D effect here, I'm just adding a chamfered edge to the outer edge of each mountain. Just the top 2 pieces of wood, using a trend chamfer bit on my router. Whoop, just like that. Okay, now, I want you to paint with me again. This time we're going to add some darker stain to some of the pieces of wood. Not all of them. We're just going to select a few special pieces and slowly build up the layers of paint like we did before, and then sand them back again. Recreate that rustic vibe with a bit more color. And I'm just using the same paints as before, a nice smooth chalk paint that gives a nice matte finish, dries quickly, and is easy to sand. There's no right or wrong way to paint it on here. We just want to get it on the wood and build up the layers of color, so when we sand it back, you get all the different colors coming through. Maybe don't even cover all the pieces. It's your world. You can do what you like. And once it's dry, just sand it back to bring out all the colors and show some of the wood. Once that's done, we're going to add some little snowy tops to our mountains. We're just using plain old white, and this is one of those times where you need a nice firm paint. No pressure, we're just using an old kitchen sponge to paint it on. There, just like that. Just touch, let it flow on top of the mountain. You want all the holes and bumps in it. There we go. We can create any kind of world we want here. Nothing hurts, no pain, nobody's unhappy. It's a pleasant place. Everything's nice here. Again, once that's done and dry, we're just gonna take the edge off it, bring back some of that detail, and sand it down in places. As before, we're just gonna glue these all down, and just to help, we're gonna add a couple of brad nails just for extra security. Nobody wants to fall down a mountain. Okay, once we've tacked it all in place, just square everything off. I'm just going to use a track saw just to take off the ends and make it all neat. You can use a circular saw if you don't have a track saw to do this. I'd highly recommend getting one. A very useful tool. I did the same on both sides and then on the bottom as the top is already square. And once you've done it, just use a set square to make sure everything's good and straight. For protection, just use a little bit of wax to bring out the colors and grain in the wood. I used a clear wax and a browning wax in different places, just for a bit more contrast in the wood. Now this is up to you, but to hide the edges, I just knocked up a little frame out of some old spruce I had from another project and just mitered the corners, making sure it's square with some handy corner clamps. And once I was happy, I just tacked it on with my 16 gauge brad nailer. And there you have it, folks. Isn't that something? Well, the old clock on the wall says it's about time to call it a day on this one. So from all of us here, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you happy making, and God bless, my friends.